Hey guys, happy Sunday. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of a soul in the Harry Potter series. Now this is a really big theme throughout the entire book and the entire movie series as well, obviously. So because it's so important, I was actually really surprised to go on my little internet deep dive and not find anything any other creator has done about the soul. Not really sure why this hasn't really been talked about as far as I can find, so I'm happy to fill in the gaps. To start, let's define the soul. So it's essentially the essence of who you are as a person. There is the body, which can still function with its brain and its heart, but without your soul, without your essence, you're not you, you're not who you're supposed to be. So that's why a ghost or a poltergeist is still able to have the personality of their living being, because it's their soul remaining in that world. With all of the special things that magic can do and add to life, you kind of forget that there still are laws to nature, and Avada Kedavra, murder, is one of the biggest violations of nature that anybody can do, wizarding or muggle. Throughout the series, there's a lot of references to a soul remaining intact versus being damaged or split. Now, obviously, a lot of that has to do with Horcruxes, because Horcruxes is a massive storyline throughout the entire series, but it's not just making a Horcrux that splits a soul. Murder, genuine, remorseless murder splits a soul, whether you're making a Horcrux or not. Usually when a person dies, their soul has the opportunity to either pass through the veil and go on to the afterlife, or they can choose to stay as a ghost or a poltergeist. However, if you make that decision, you'll never get another choice. You have to remain in the world of the living forever. Maybe that's why the souls with the resurrection stone, when they were brought back, were so unhappy. They chose to go to the afterlife. They had that choice and they made that decision. Then they're almost forced to live the life of a ghost against their will. As I was saying before I got interrupted by a phone call, but the soul has a choice, and to be taken back into the world of the living against your will, you're probably not going to be all too happy. It is important to clarify that only whole, intact, whole, intact souls are the only ones that get this decision. So Voldemort clearly did not get this decision because his soul was split into many, many, many pieces, and we see that disgusting little scraggly, bloody fetus Voldemort thing in King's Crossing at the end, or not the end, but when Harry, goes and hangs out in Limbo at King's Crossing with Dumbledore. That is Limbo, the in-between, the middle, where the soul gets to have a choice. They can choose to go back, they can choose to go forwards. I assume that that's kind of the same that any soul would see, where either they're stuck there, they can move on, or they can go back. However, Harry's the only one that if he went back, he still got his physical body. He was still able to live because his mother's blood was in his blood, which was his mother's blood, which is the blood with the love spell that protects him, is in Voldemort. So Voldemort was tethering him physically to life still with that bond, even though Harry, before this, was tethering Voldemort to life with his Horcrux. It was two different tethers to life, where one soul was able to remain whole and the other one was not. But I assume that there are 7 pieces, 8, including Voldemort himself, stuck in Limbo that never get to move on, and he's split up all over the place, and there's just all these Limbo pieces of Voldemort hanging around. I imagine it like if you've seen Loki, the TV series, where he goes into he gets zapped away, and then there's the Goliath, and there's all the different Lokis. That's kind of how I imagine it, even though that's not close at all. It's just how I think about it. Now, Avada Kedavra is one of the unforgivable or illegal curses. Would using the Cruciatus curse or Imperio also split the soul? I think so, because I think Bellatrix's soul would have split or have been damaged in some way when she did what she did to the Longbottoms kind of thing, Now, I had mentioned the veil and then quickly moved on, so let's revisit that for a quick little second. And a little side note, next week's video is going to be about the veil and all of my fun little theories about that, so stay tuned for next week. In Order of the Phoenix, we see Sirius fall through the veil. In the movie, we see him get hit with Avada Kedavra. In the books, he gets hit with a red spell, which we believe is the stunning spell, and he then is knocked off balance and falls into the veil. Because of this, they don't ever get his physical body back. There's never a funeral. Dumbledore's funeral is the first one Harry ever goes to, so there was never a body that was recovered for Sirius. So not exactly sure what happened to it, if it walked over there with him, if it disintegrated, if it just left the earth and just was just laying on the other side of the veil, unable to be taken back. However, it is to my understanding that souls might not have to pass through the veil. The veil, in my mind, is the physical representation of the door to the afterlife, that there is physical proof of an afterlife rather than it being some alluded to concept or idea. Anything else on the veil I am gonna save for next week, but there is also theories that the flowing, the tattered cloth that flows, it could also be theorized that that is souls constantly passing through, because when Sirius falls through, it ripples big and then slows back down to a flutter. So maybe it's just like, I mean, people die all the time of all different reasons. Maybe it's just a slow flutter of all of the souls constantly passing through. It is important to talk about that not all murder rips the soul. The only example that we really necessarily get, well, Harry just disarms Voldemort, who then just dissolves into nothing. That's so annoying. I guess Harry would be another example of a murderer, because you don't have to like actually be the one to physically do it, because Voldemort was still able to split his soul by using a basilisk to murder Myrtle Warren. So Harry still was on the chopping block for splitting up his soul, but because it was not a genuine, remorseless murder, it was self-defense and saving the wizarding world, it didn't rip his soul. So anyway, back to my main point about Snape. Snape's soul was not split, and there's a whole conversation between Snape and Dumbledore that makes all this very clear. Where essentially Dumbledore and Snape are having this conversation about what's going to happen at the end of this year, what needs to be done, what Draco has been ordered to do, and that Snape is basically like, you're gonna die anyway, why not just let Draco kill you? And Dumbledore's like, Draco's soul is not so damaged that it can't be saved. Like, Draco still has a chance in this world. He still has a chance to change, to grow, to be a good person. Dumbledore couldn't have the cost of his soul on his head. So Snape's like, so what about my soul? I thought we were friends this whole time. Like, what about me? And Dumbledore's quote is, you're the only one that would know for sure whether taking my life would harm your soul, based on the facts of he was doing it to save Dumbledore of humiliation and pain. So because it was out of remorse, because it was out of love, it was his only friend. Dumbledore was Snape. I don't need to get on that soapbox, but Dumbledore was Snape's only friend. He had to look his only friend in the eye and take his life wearing the badge of the bad guy, of the Death Eater, knowing he was never a coward and not a bad person, that he had to take the life of his only friend, and that he didn't, it was remorseful. He didn't want to do it, but he did do it. You have to mean these curses to be able to actually cast them. And we learned that from Bellatrix when Harry uses Crucio on her. She starts taunting him and lecturing him on how to actually use the Crucio, and that you really need to mean these curses for them to work. Snape obviously fully, truly, deeply intended to end Dumbledore's life, but it was out of love and remorse, not out of hate or malice. Dementors, I think, are really fascinating creatures. And honestly, when I said a Thestral is my favorite creature, it was only because I didn't want to tell you guys that Dementors are actually my favorite creature. But like, I've been struggling with depression for genuinely as long as I can possibly remember. I don't even know where it started. I just kind of felt like that was always there. I don't really understand that, but that's not the topic for today. But that was why when I finally read these books at age 9, that I connected to Dementors, and they were just always my favorite character, and that's really demented. But they are a perfect example of a soul, in that a soul is your essence, it's who you are, it's your person, and if you lose who you are, you're just as good as a vegetable, you're a shell, you're nothing, because a person can live without their soul, but it's not a very good life. Death is preferable. There are actually quite a few things throughout the series that people say death is preferable to. That's really funny. I just thought about that. But to tie off our video for today, I have a couple little fun facts. So I've been watching Fantastic Beasts on like repeat, and I'm just like watching them over and over and over again as I go to bed every night, and I'm really enjoying it. But the Chillin is able to assess a person's soul and see if they're pure of heart. So that is a really fascinating creature that I will do a TikTok on very soon. In Half-Blood Prince, after Dumbledore dies, his phoenix Fawkes goes and flies around and he sings a song called the Phoenix Lament. Lament. Whatever it's pronounced as. The Phoenix's song is said to affect the soul in an emotional way. It's said to cause an emotional reaction. And Fawkes circled and cried his song at Dumbledore's death. My favorite little fun fact, that after Battle of the Department of Mysteries, Voldemort never tried to possess Harry again, not because he couldn't, not because Harry bested him, but because it was too painful for Voldemort's cracked, destroyed soul to be around a pure, put together whole soul. So it was just too painful for him to be in Harry's body. I feel like this covered a good bit, but I also feel like I could have developed this more. So don't be surprised if I remake this video later on down the line. I've got a couple other things that I'm gonna do first. This won't be anytime soon, but later on down the line, I might fill this in a little bit more, but I really like this topic. I was very surprised to not have seen other creators talk about it because it's one of the most important themes in the entire book series. So that blew my mind. It's the fact that I literally was a sentence away from finishing this video and I got a "you're out of storage space" notification. Please go support my TikTok, because the more you support my TikTok, the more money I make. Qualified views, or if you see it off of the For You page, and the more money I make off TikTok, the sooner I'm able to buy a computer and a filming camera, so this isn't an issue anymore.